Zealanders.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member Nikki Wagner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on this budget 2013 today because it's been a really important budget. It's Bill English's fifth budget and fifth in a series of budgets that has taken us through the worst global recession since the 1930s. One of the fifth budgets that's allowed us to invest in our communities, to support jobs and to protect our most vulnerable, and now to chart a path to pay off debt and to get back into surplus by 2014 and 15. And it's a big ask, but we are getting there, we're on our way, and it was good to see that the OECD in its economic survey just recently has confirmed that we are absolutely on the right track, that this government is improving productivity to support long-term growth, that our banking system is in good shape, and that they applaud the fact that we are on track towards a government surplus. The report also notes that the economy is gathering momentum. It's gathering momentum through the post-earthquake reconstruction of Christchurch and Canterbury, through business investment and increased household spending. This is all good news from this budget. But of course, as the MP for Christchurch Central, I'm mostly interested in what this budget does for Christchurch. Now, supporting the rebuild of Christchurch and Canterbury is one of the four pillars of this budget. It's one of the four, along with responsibly managing our finances, building a more productive and competitive economy, and delivering better public services. And I've always been very grateful that the Prime Minister comes from Christchurch, that he was educated there, and that he began his working life there, because I know he understands us, and I know he understands the value of our city and our province, and that he and this national government support the rebuild 100%. Now, we are the second largest city in New Zealand. We are the gateway to the South Island. We are the first stop for tourists to the area, and we're the hub for businesses and the transport centre for exports. And it's been really good to see that despite all the damage from the earthquakes, the Port of Lyttelton has exported record tonnages over the last few months. And of course, we're the home of the Crusaders. So without doubt, Canterbury and Christchurch is the economic powerhouse of the South Island, and this rebuild is the biggest economic undertaking in New Zealand's history. So for the people who live in Christchurch and Canterbury, for our economic influence and from our national pride, it is enormously important that this city gets rebuilt. And it will be rebuilt, and it will be rebuilt safer, stronger, more people-friendly, more sustainable, and even more beautiful. We're on our way to create a 21st century city and to position ourselves in the world as a great small city and a place where people will want to live, will want to visit, and will want to invest. This is a one-off opportunity, and we have to make sure that we all make the very most of it. So I'm really pleased that Budget 2013 has increased the government's commitment to fund that rebuild by a further $2.1 billion. Now, the total cost of the rebuild, which will include funds from insurance, from investment, from local and central government, is now estimated to be about $40 billion. We had thought 30, but it's now escalated to 40 billion, and this government's contribution will also increase from about 13 to 15 billion. And it's a huge amount of money, and it just indicates just how much work has got to be done in the city. But it's really positive for Christchurch and Canterbury because it underpins our future growth, and jobs for at least another decade. And latest figures show that Christchurch is really doing well in terms of employment. The unemployment rate is down to 4.3% and dropping. There's increased wage rates, increasing numbers of building consents, and with a growth rate of 7.5%, absolutely unheard of in New Zealand, Canterbury is the most confident region in the country. Also, we have high levels of internal and external migration and low employment, and it's starting to become a real economic hotspot. Tourism is also increasing, and with our guest nights arising, and we have a higher than average proportion of international visitors visiting in comparison to locals. And that's not surprising when you consider that Christchurch is deemed by Lonely Planet as one of the top 10 cities in the world to visit in 2013. Who would have ever thought that pre-earthquake? Now, the budget increases funding for the things that matter most to Cantabrians: rebuilding our homes and communities and investing in health and education. The budget allocates $900 million of new capital funding for the rebuilding of the Christchurch and Burwood hospitals, and this is going to be the biggest health project ever begun in New Zealand. And also funding for the Justice and Emergency Service Precinct. Now, this is a hub in the central city which will allow emergency services, police, corrections, St John's Ambulance and fire to work together much more efficiently and effectively. It's also got funding for tertiary education institutions. On top of that, it allocates $92.4 million for the Greater Christchurch 21st Century School Renewal Program, which will benefit many future generations of school students. There's an extra $303 million that's been allocated for the Central City Recovery Plan, which includes nearly $80 million for the development of the Avon River Precinct. Now, that will become, the Avon River flows through the city, and that will become the focus for our city, and it will provide public amenities and become the equivalent of a recreational waterfront right downtown. There's also funding for the final land zoning decisions and the work of SERA, that's the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority. Now, on top of all this, Christchurch will benefit from its share of the general budget investments. Those are the investments that are designed to make our economy more productive and competitive, such as research and development for businesses, and funding for tourism and international educational marketing, all areas that are really important to us. Also part of the broadband and the irrigation projects. And in terms of public services, we will benefit from the Warm Up New Zealand Healthy Homes project funding and improved support for low-income families. And of course, our share of the $14.7 billion going to health. And that's health for all our families. It's focused on the elderly and dementia, diabetes, asthma, extra operations, but also for maternity and childcare and men's health. So all in all, this is an intelligent and well thought out budget. It's an excellent budget for the people of Christchurch and Canterbury and for the rebuild, and that is good for all New Zealanders.
I call the honourable member